What if I told you there was an emperor who forced his subjects to applaud every single time he yawned? It sounds like a joke, but for the people of ancient Rome, it was a bizarre and terrifying reality. This Roman ruler, Heliogabalus, didn't just have a few quirks. He turned his own boredom into law, creating one of the most absurd chapters in history. Heliogabalus wasn't just eccentric, he was outrageous. He ascended to the throne as a teenager and immediately began to challenge every Roman tradition he could find. The yawning law was just a taste of his strange sense of power. Imagine being a Roman citizen, going about your day, and suddenly you hear the emperor is nearby. You have to be on high alert, not for a decree or a procession, but for a yawn. If you didn't clap loud enough or fast enough, you could face punishment. It was a constant performance, a ridiculous display of loyalty demanded by a ruler who seemed to thrive on chaos and attention. And believe me, the yawning edict was only the beginning of his bizarre reign. Heliogabalus's time in power was a whirlwind of strange, often cruel, spectacles that left the Roman elite and common folk alike bewildered and afraid. His behavior went far beyond simple eccentricity. It was a systematic campaign of absurdity. Let's talk about his dinner parties. You might think an invitation to the imperial palace would be an honor, but under Heliogabalus it was a gamble. He was infamous for his deadly pranks. He once constructed a special dining room with a reversible ceiling. While his guests were feasting and drinking, he would release a literal avalanche of rose petals from above. It sounds beautiful, right? But he would release so many that his unsuspecting guests would be buried, trapped, and suffocate under the weight of the flowers. A beautiful death, perhaps, but a terrifying and senseless one. His pranks weren't always fatal, but they were always humiliating. He took great pleasure in serving his guests joke food. Imagine being presented with a grand feast, only to discover that the exquisite dishes were actually made of wax, wood, or stone. You'd have to pretend to enjoy it, all while the emperor watched with amusement. He once held a banquet where the sole dish was peas, not as a side, but as the main course. Thousands upon thousands of plates of peas were served to the baffled aristocracy. Another time, he served the heads of 600 ostriches just so he could offer their brains as a delicacy. He also loved to mess with the most powerful men in Rome. He would invite senators to the palace, not for a serious political discussion, but to force them to watch him dance. Dressed in the robes of a Syrian sun god priest, Heliogabalus would perform elaborate, frenzied dances for hours on end, and the senators had no choice but to sit there and watch. He even appointed his favorite chariot driver as the commander of the Praetorian Guard, and filled other high offices with dancers, actors, and barbers, based not on merit, but on his personal whims. He would release tamed lions and leopards, with their teeth and claws removed, into the bedrooms of his sleeping guests, just to see their panicked reactions upon waking. He'd make his courtiers collect thousands of pounds of cobwebs just to prove that storm. Greatness of Rome. He even held a lottery where the prizes ranged from a grand villa to a handful of dead flies. You never knew what you were going to get with him. So what was going on with this guy? Was Heliogabalus truly insane, driven mad by absolute power at such a young age? Or was he the ultimate troll, a performance artist who saw the Roman Empire as his personal stage? Historians are still divided. Some argue that his actions were a deliberate attempt to replace Roman traditions with his own religious customs from the East. Others believe he was simply a spoiled, cruel teenager with no concept of leadership or responsibility. His reign was short, lasting only 4 years before the Praetorian Guard had enough and assassinated him, but in that short time, he left a legacy of such pure, unadulterated strangeness that we're still talking about it 2,000 years later. He wasn't just an emperor, he was a phenomenon, a walking, yawning, dancing spectacle of chaos. Thanks for watching. If you found this dive into history's weirdest ruler as fascinating as I did, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories from the wild side of history. Let me know in the comments which bizarre historical figure you'd like to hear about next. See you in the next video.